When I became interested in visiting the national parks, there were 54. When Hunterdon and I started our pursuit, there were 58. Presently, in 2021, there are 63 national parks, and some beckon me more than others. Saguaro was slowly growing up my bucket list as I dashed off other blue chips. The National Park of Saguaro, pronounced Saguaro, is home to the world's largest population and almost all of the namesake cactus. This Sonoran desert area was home to the Hohokam people from 450 to 1450. They were successful in utilizing this area for the resources that it allowed and produced. The Hohokam people devised irrigation systems in the dry desert and were able to farm and propagate fruitful planting in this varied habitat. The elevation rises from 2,188 feet to 8,666 feet across the 100-mile stretch of what must have been an incredible amount of saguaros and Native American history. The 1500s showed the movement of Spanish explorers, and the 1862 Homestead Act brought in prospectors. Together, these groups settled what is now Tucson, thus dividing the part into two districts, West Mountain and East Rincon Mountain, eventually being preserved in the 1990s after the center slice had been stripped and settled. It is now illegal to harm a saguaro, and special permits are necessary to build around living beacons in the entire state of Arizona. In an effort to leave no rock unturned, we were slated to visit both sides of the park, and ever so luckily, there was a Cruise America location smack dab in Tucson. It was disappointing to see that so much of this beautiful native Sonoran desert, packed full of saguaros, was destroyed and developed into downtown. The Tucson city landscape is dotted with giant saguaros that stick out like the sore thumbs of the hustle and bustle. The salesman and mechanic at Cruise America were apologetic, helpful, and had our table repaired and replaced while we ran over to Family Dollar for forgotten items. Saguaro National Park did not disappoint my lifelong expectations. I had wanted to see these giants ever since my first crush on Tonto and his horse Scout. Seeing the Lone Ranger and Silver Heels galloping around those prickly pestles had me inspired to navigate around them for myself. I could see the horses doing the desert dance, do-si-doing cacti. I could hear Kimosabi hollering, "Hi-ho, Silver!" as Tonto's fringe flapped in the desert breeze. This desert was deserted. We did not pass a person or a vehicle as we drove the breathtaking Hohokam Road Loop and stopped to hike the 5-star Valley View Overlook Trail. This concentration of cacti is chock full of various vascular plants. The predominant cacti specimens besides saguaros are fishhook barrels, staghorn cholla, pink flower hedgehog, Engelmann's prickly pear, teddy bear cholla, and chainfoot chollas. Additionally, there are other plants in this desert oasis that accentuate and garnish the bouquet of gorgeousness that abounds. Almost everything alive here is a shade of green. Even the bark on the trees is green. Arizona's state tree is this sturdy midget called Palo Verde. It looks like miniature aspen or birch with an umbrella-like canopy that blooms yellow in the spring. It is a Sonoran desert native named for its green stick. Other sticky bushes include mesquite, creosote, catclaw, and the little torch, ocotillo, while desert marigolds brighten the sandy paths. Everything has spikes, stickers, thorns, burrs, or prickers. Everything looks thirsty. It's easy to see why most of the wildlife is laden in scaled armor or a hardened shell, and it is natural to understand why the native Hohokam people called this peaceful place home. The Hohokam tribes cherished the fruits from the saguaros and the prickly pear cacti. The resourcefulness of the people had them repurposing long saguaro ribs into cue pads used to pluck fresh meaty fruits from their towering perches. Hunterdon picked and prepared a pleasant prickly pear treat for us for breakfast. The natives used the bright red pulp to make syrup, jelly, and ceremonial wine. We sucked on the flesh and spit out the seeds that the natives would have ground into flour. The cool morning air presented relief from the 40-degree upswing we were about to take. Only the towering saguaros offered a sliver of shade from the fast-rising sun shining. These majestic monarchs reigned with the herds of standing spears surrounding the giants. Saguaros are the largest cacti growing in the United States, and the tallest one grew to 78 feet. That's taller than a 6-story building. That monster was over 250 years old when the tower toppled in a windstorm in 1986. The saguaros grow at a super slow rate of 2 inches per year, and most live between 150 and 200 years. The saguaro spears developed their first arm between 75 and 100 years old, and can grow up to 50 of these arms. The arms, or apices, increase reproductive effects, which leads to more flowers and fruit production. Not only do these beauties do the backdrop work for early cowboy and Indian Western shows, but their flowers and fruits increase their appeal. April through June is the best time to see the desert in full bloom, but we managed to get lucky with some of the barrel cacti and mighty giants. The tightly wound yellow buds swirled with edges highlighted in orange, anxious to unfold, begged my camera lens closer. Spiny tendrils curled from the ring of flowers that crowned the barrel. Their structure was bromeliad-like and hardy, and their color was fiery and fierce. Not only are the flowers and fruits beautiful to photograph, but they also serve the pollinating communities of honeybees, bats, white-winged dove, hummingbirds, orioles, woodpeckers, gilded flickers, verdin, and housefinch. Saturated succulent saguaros are the water pumps and water towers of the desert, with the ability to soak up 200 gallons during a downpour. They can hold 6 tons, that's 1,500 gallons of water, and they can weigh up to 4,800 pounds. They also serve as apartment complexes for small animals, birds, and owls. The meaty flesh of the saguaro can become pierced from a woodpecker, thus caving and creating a calloused opening for nesting. The natives use these cavities to safely stash items, as well as using the woody ribs of the giants for constructing shelters. If you are short on time, I recommend choosing one side of the park and doing the scenic driving tour along with the short hike. The park's campground is called Gilbert Ray, and it is right in the thick of the cacti concentration on the west side. I highly recommend camping here. If visiting the West District of Saguaro, drive Hohokam North Kinney Road Scenic Loop and hike Valley View Overlook Trail. It's a moderate 1 mile loop. If you're visiting the East District of Saguaro, drive Cactus Forest Loop and hike Mica View Loop, which is an easy 1.8 mile trail.